let's go ahead and get started, and hopefully they'll be able to join us. So let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. And to make an announcement that the participants will be muted upon entry to the meeting and unmuted as necessary when it's their turn to speak. And I'd like to also remind the commissioners to know that we will be conducting a roll call vote for each action item. Madam Secretary, will you please explain how the public comment process works and provide the call-in information?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I would like to take a minute to share how to speak during public comment this evening. There are 4 separate public comment periods associated with tonight's agenda. The Commission will take general public comment during agenda items numbers 3 and 11. In addition, the Commission will take public comment specific to public hearing items 6 and 7. If you wish to speak during any of these public comment periods, you will need to call in. The telephone number is 1-669-900-6833. The meeting ID number is 975-7549-8030. This will join you by audio to the meeting. You will then be prompted by the chair or the secretary when public comment is open to press *9 on your telephone to request to speak. Please note that pressing *9 once will raise your hand to speak. Pressing it again will lower your hand. Please make sure your hand is raised if you wish to speak. Individuals shall limit their comments to 3 minutes per Nevada Revised Statute 241.020. Emailed public comments specific to agenda items 6 and 7 will be read aloud at the beginning of the public comment period for these items. These emails will also be given 3 minutes per NRS 241.020. The dial-in numbers will be repeated at the beginning of each public comment period. Please be prepared to write them down should you wish to speak.
Thank you. Can we please have a roll call vote? A roll call, not a vote.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Peterson is absent for now. If he joins us, then we will make an announcement. Commissioner Blako, also absent. I will make a note if he joins us. Commissioner Carey.
Present.
Commissioner Pritzos.
Here.
Commissioner Rawson.
Here.
Commissioner Vanderwell.
Here.
Assistant City Attorney Allison McCormick.
Here.
Assistant Community Services Director Armando Ornelas.
Here.
All right, thank you. So this is public comment. It's an opportunity for any member of the public to provide comment on any item on or off the agenda. You will have 3 minutes. Madam Secretary, do we have any callers for public comment?
I do not have any notated for this general public comment period. Ms. Martinez, do we have anybody that would like to speak during this general public comment period?
We have no speakers requesting to speak.
Thank you.
Okay.
Please, Commissioner Reed. Commissioner Peterson has joined us.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Commissioner Peterson. We're on item number 4, approval of the agenda. But before we approve the agenda, the applicant's representative for item 4 has asked to remove that, or item 8, PCN 12022. He has asked to be removed from the agenda. So if you make a motion to approve the agenda, make sure that you include the removal of item number 8. Have a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda with the removal of item 8.
Thank you. We have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a first from Commissioner Vanderwill and a second from Commissioner Pritzos. Can we do a roll call vote, Madam Secretary?
I got the phone.
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson,
Here.
Commissioner Boyko,
Still trying to log in. I just got a text from him.
perfect. Thank you, Commissioner Carey. Commissioner Carey,
Yay.
Commissioner Pritzos,
Yay.
Commissioner Rawson,
Yay.
Commissioner Vanderwell,
Aye.
Madam
Commissioner-
Chair.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yay.
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to item 5, which is approval of the minutes. First is the review and possible approval of the minutes of the April 14th, 2020 Planning Commission study session. Can I get a motion on the minutes?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes of the April 14th, 2020 Planning Commission study session. Commissioner Vanderwell.
Thank you, Commissioner Vanderwill. Do I have a second?
Madam Chairman, Commissioner Peterson, I second it.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, can you please do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Boyko. But I'm going to give Commissioner Boyko a minute here. He just joined us.
All right. Should be all set. I apologize. I could not find the link to the meeting. Have it now though.
Commissioner Boyko, we have a vote on the table for approval of the study session minutes. Can I have your vote, please?
I vote yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Carey,
Yay.
Commissioner Pritzos,
Aye.
Commissioner Rawson,
Yay.
Commissioner Vanderwell.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. So next we will move on to our public hearing items, starting with PCN 19-0037. Consideration of and possible action on a request for a conditional use permit to allow a 107,122 plus or minus square foot fully enclosed mini storage facility on approximately 1.99 acres located at 3070 Vista Boulevard, Sparks, Nevada in the Planned Development DeAndrea zoning district.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
you didn't call for approval of the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting
Oh,
Or 16.
for April 16th.
I'm sorry. I thought that we did both of those. I apologize. Let's go back to calling for review and possible approval of the minutes of the April 16th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Vanderwell, I move for approval of the minutes of the April 16th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Rawson seconds it.
Thank you. I have a first by Commissioner Vanderwell and Commissioner Rawson. Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Boyko,
Aye.
Commissioner Carey,
Yay.
Commissioner Pritzos,
Aye.
Commissioner Rawson,
Yay.
Commissioner Vanderwell.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we can move on to public hearing items, starting with PCN 19-0037. Do I need to repeat the item number?
No, Madam Chair, you don't. What
Okay.
you said is sufficient. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
storage facility on 1.99 acres at 3070 Vista Boulevard in the DeAndrea plan development. So the site is outlined here in a couple of different colors, and I can walk you through those. What we have outlined in bright green is the entirety of the shopping center, most of which is known as the DeAndrea Point Shopping Center. Outlined in blue is a slightly different version of that shopping center that's governed by CCNRs, which the proposed site falls into. The site in red is the 1.99 acres that the proposed site will be built upon. Additionally, just below the red is the 3.9 acre open space parcel, which will remain open space and won't be disturbed by the construction or development of the site. The proposed storage facility is a 3-story building that will contain 750 storage units accessed through an indoor drive-in loading area. And that loading area is right along here on the right-hand side of the building. And customers will access the site through one of these 3 access points, one here to the northwest, down here to the southwest just behind the drugstore, and over here on the southeast on Amore Drive, and then access into this facility through the drive-in part of the building here. The proposed site and building has been designed to match the existing materials, colors, and architecture of the existing DeAndrea Point Shopping Center. Here is an image of a couple of the elevations. This would be looking at it from the west, which is the side of the drugstore on the top there. And as you can see in the bottom image, the site is on a little bit of a slope. So one part of the building on the eastern side over here, which is the drive-in part of the facility, is a little bit higher up. And so the building is a little bit shorter on that side and then a little bit taller down here on the side closest to the drugstore. And one more elevation, this one, draw your attention to the one on the top here, the north elevation, which shows the architecture scheme that would be used to match what's existing at the drugstore site and the rest of the DeAndrea Point Shopping Center. And so I have an image of what the existing drugstore does look like today, which is this. And after just a moment, I'll go back and you can see that the proposed design looks much like what is existing at that site. So one of the development standards, I'll go here. One of the development standards, in addition to the architecture and site design and colors and materials and things like that that are required in the DeAndrea handbook, which the proposed facility does meet, is floor area ratio. And so I wanted to give just kind of a quick rundown of what floor area ratio means so that we all kind of are on the same page. Hypothetically, so essentially a building, the overall building square footage in comparison to the lot size gives us a floor area ratio. So on a 1,000 square foot lot, a 500 square foot 1-story building would have a floor area ratio of 0. If that 500 square foot building were 2 stories for a total of 1,000 square feet, the floor area ratio would be 1.0. So in the DeAndrea handbook, commercial developments are limited to a floor area ratio maximum of 0.75. Normally speaking, floor area ratios are often today used to establish minimums to encourage density. In this case, the DeAndrea handbook established a floor area ratio maximum to limit the amount of density that would take place on the commercial sites. And so the second row is the proposed FAR that the applicant has provided to us, which takes into account the DeAndrea Point Shopping Center per the CCNRs that they belong to. Staff felt that it was necessary to include the Walgreens in the overall shopping center site for this calculation. And as you can see from the numbers, that brings the floor area ratio down even further. So in either scenario, the proposed site design is well within the established maximum in the DeAndrea handbook. So there are 5 required findings for a conditional use permit. Finding C1 requires compliance with the comprehensive plan. Staff believes that the proposed site meets goal MG1 to support economic vitality, goal MG2 to foster diversity in the land use mix, as well as goal MG4 to facilitate infill and redevelopment. Additionally, it meets policy MG1 to provide a diverse and fiscally positive uses, and policy CF1 that city services will be provided and adequate at the site. Finding C2 asks you to consider surrounding uses. Here's a little quick breakdown of what's going on at the site. To the north and west is the existing shopping center. So those are commercial uses. To the south is the open space parcel. And across Amore Drive to the east is multifamily residential. C3 asks you to consider the potential impairment of natural resources. This is an undeveloped site that was designated for commercial development. And again, the adjacent open space parcel will remain undisturbed through the construction and the life of the project. Finding C4 asks you to consider any other identified impacts. Staff has identified architecture as one of those impacts. The proposed design does meet the requirements of the handbook, and as I demonstrated with the images, is significantly similar to what exists at the DeAndrea Point Shopping Center today. Circulation is another concern. The proposed site design does meet the fire department's standards for turning radius and things like that to access the entirety of the site. And they did concur with staff in determining that if a fire apparatus was able to access the entirety of the site adequately, that so too would a large moving vehicle. And so that was one of the impacts we wanted to look at with circulation. And so staff does believe that that has been mitigated with the circulation and site design. Traffic, the applicant provided a traffic letter from an engineer stating that the peak hour trips would not exceed 14 per day on average. The city's threshold for further analysis is 80 peak hour trips per day. And so there's no concern there. Parking, based on the applicant's site plan, the proposed parking lot, in addition to the indoor loading area, will provide more than enough parking to satisfy the requirements per the code. And adjacency to residential uses. A few of the things that we've identified in the staff report that will mitigate any impacts that this might have on neighboring residential are the limited hours. There's a condition based on what the applicant provided in their proposal that the facility would be open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And indoor loading area essentially is going to mitigate a lot of the impacts that might normally be associated with the mini storage facility. All the unloading and loading of trucks would take place inside of doors. Not a lot of high demand on the parking lot itself or the usual park outside of your storage unit and unload. That won't be taking place here because of the site design and the indoor nature of this facility. And additionally, staff is going to be asking for mature landscaping to be installed around the entirety of the project in order to mitigate further visual and noise and other impacts that might be generated on the site. And so finally, each of these, the design standards were reviewed. Essentially the same site plan and proposed architecture, et cetera, that was provided to staff was provided to the DeAndrea Community Association for their approval. And the DeAndrea Community Association did give the applicant permission to move forward with their application to submit it to the city for review, which is why we're here today. Additionally, because of the floor area ratio calculations that we made based on the entirety of the site, staff did ask the applicant to get the consent of a majority of property owners for the requirements of the CCNRs in order to move forward with the project. They did provide us with that documentation that's in your packets with the staff report. So the final finding is public notice given, public hearing held. 58 property owners were notified on April 24th, and April 24th was the publication date in the Reno Gazette-Journal for this item. We did receive one email. I believe Marilee Smith will read that into the record. Additionally, the applicant and the applicant's representatives are with us on here today, and I believe they'll be available for your questions as well. So with that, I will be glad to answer your questions.
Thank you, Jonathan. Do any of the commissioners have questions of staff? Just raise your hand if you have a question. Let me screen down so I can see everybody. Okay. I don't see any questions. Is the applicant here, and can we unmute?
Yes. So this is Brody Glenn. How is everybody? So we're here. So we're obviously, I'm Brody Glenn with Centennial American Properties from Greenville, South Carolina. This is my first time doing a Zoom public meeting, but I'll have to say y'all done a great job with it. But we're here to answer any questions. Basically what we're doing is bringing a retail discipline to self-storage. We took all the gates off the building created a vehicular pull-through that eliminates a lot of the issues that people have with storage, the noise, the question of security, access, the gates, all of those things. This is a site that I believe will fit into the neighborhood, as Jonathan showed. As we go back into the neighborhood, the building elevation will appear to be 2 stories, and the architecture will match the architecturalists in the surrounding areas. I do think this will be something that y'all as commissioners and the entire city will be proud of. And we are working on other projects there in Reno to do a very similar store.
Great. Do any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant? Just signify by raising your hand. No questions? Well, let's go ahead and open it for public comment. Once again, I'd like to remind participants you are muted upon entry to the meeting and unmuted as necessary. When it's your turn, you will have 3 minutes. Madam Secretary, will you please repeat the call-in information?
The telephone number for call-in participation is 1-669-900-6833. The meeting ID number is 975-7549-8030. You will need to press *9 to request to speak. We did receive 1 emailed public comment for this item. I will read that now. Following that, we will allow those who have called in to speak. The public comment email that I'm about to read, I received from George Emery. It is in the form of a memorandum, and I will attempt to get through this in the 3 minutes. To Sparks Planning Commission from Joe Canale, Vice President, DCA Chair of the Project Study Group, regarding PCN 19-0037. Dear Planning Commission members, thank you for the invitation and opportunity to testify regarding PCN 19-0037, a request for a conditional use permit to allow a 107,122 square foot mini storage facility on approximately 1.99 acres located at 3070 Vista Boulevard. As commissioners may recall, the D'Andrea Community Association chartered a special PUD Handbook Amendment Committee in the spring of 2016 to work initially with the D'Andrea Rising Group. Although D'Andrea Rising became no longer viable, the Handbook Amendment Committee, as originally constituted, remains tasked with any and all matters pertaining to the DCA PUD Handbook. Last year, a group began working with the developer of a currently vacant lot east of Walgreens and other adjacent businesses near the northwest border of D'Andrea Community Association, identified in the vicinity map as PCN 19-0037. The property is not owned by the association, but since it lies within the association boundaries and it is included in the PUD handbook, the City of Sparks requested that the developer seek project review from the association in advance of any consideration by the city. The handbook states that all projects within the scope of the handbook require the DCA to present any changes and or amendments to the PUD handbook to the city for further action. On March 4th, 2020, an informal meeting requested by CAP Storage and facilitated by Councilman Paul Anderson was held with a representative of CAP Storage, Councilman Anderson, some other members of the DCA study group, DCA community manager, and the DCA president. Committee members reflected on a number of issues that, in their view, would garner the least amount of homeowner resistance should the city choose to remand the project to the Planning Commission for further study and pursuant to commission review, possibly for consideration by City Council. These issues were primarily concerned with the finished height above sea level of the completed structure, which, as presented, will negatively affect any existing view not only of the cities of Sparks but Reno, but even the Sierra Nevada mountain range. While resolution on issues discussed over the past few months, including the March 4th meeting, was not anticipated or finalized during this informal meeting, the DCA was advised that recommendations would be presented to project developers. It should be noted that the city cautioned DCA to pay particular attention to structural height during the conduct of the storage proposal project review. Although view is not a projected right, several comments within the handbook mention building with the land to protect views from the development. We trust the Planning Commission will weigh these concerns with equal merit. After many months of reviewing the project proposal, the D'Andrea Board of Directors confirmed on March 25th, 2020 by unanimous vote, informed both the City of Sparks and CAP Storage that it would not disapprove the CAP Storage project proposal. Once again, I have one more sentence. Once again, the DCA wishes to thank the City of Sparks and the Planning Commission for the opportunity to review and vet the proposed CAP project, since it lies within the association boundaries and is included in the PUT handbook. Respectfully yours, Joe Canale, Chair, CAP Project Study Group.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Do we have any callers that would like to comment on this item?
We do have one caller.
Okay.
Hi, once again, this is Joe Canale, and I'm calling as a homeowner. And I would like to thank you for the opportunity to address the Planning Commission on the proposed project. The D'Andrea Handbook was originally created in August of 1998 as a master planned community that stretched from the meadows to the foothills. Goal number one of the project goals in the introduction of the handbook is to establish a community within its own sense of place and an identity that blends with the adjacent neighborhoods and environment. The site analysis portion of the handbook on page 13 begins with the heading Views. And the first sentence is, one of the most significant assets of this property are its views. The handbook then continues to discuss spectacular views of the entire Truckee Meadows, Sierra Nevada mountain range, and other mountains surrounding the Truckee Meadows from the property. The CAP proposed project finished height does conform with the handbook maximum standards. Then if their building were placed on Vista Boulevard, as Safeway and Walgreens said, the height of these buildings would not negatively affect the views the D'Andrea homeowners have enjoyed since purchasing their homes. The CAP project is not, however, proposed to be placed on Vista, and instead it is proposed to go behind Barrietta's restaurant north of Walgreens on a site that is in the beginning of the foothills and is a number of feet higher than Vista. The developers currently intend to bury a portion of their bottom floor so they can partially blend with the slope of the property and keep 3 full floors. They also intend to move the existing road that connects in the parking lot with the Maury Drive. If they're allowed to build a structure as is, and they do not take their bottom floor any lower, the views from the homes, apartments, and walkways near the structure will lose any views there are now that exist of these mountain ranges the handbook provides for in its creation. Normally, views are not a protected right, but as this handbook was created, it mentions numerous times in the importance of maintaining the views from this community. The views were one of the reasons I purchased my home in the community. I expected views were quite important to many of the homeowners in D'Andrea. We're literally talking dropping the finished height 5 to 6 feet to maintain the existing views, instead of making the only views homeowners will be the sky and clouds. Please consider the finished height above sea level of this project and the negative effect of building it as is to the views of the homeowners, and consider the recommendations of either building the first floor lower or lowering the height of each floor so the existing views will remain. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, do we have any further public comment?
There are no further callers.
Thank you, Ms.
All right.
Martinez.
I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring back to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Carey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Couple questions for staff. Jonathan, I was looking through the staff report and finding C4, and it was talking about parking. Looking at the staff report, that it looks like the proposed use is still 5 spaces short.
Yes.
And that's going to be mitigated because of a reciprocal parking agreement and because of the design of the loading dock.
That's correct, Commissioner Carey. There is additional parking throughout the site, throughout the shopping center, were to exist. Additionally, and Mr. Glenn, the applicant, can speak to this further if you'd like, but I believe that you can fit somewhere between 4 and 8 more vehicles in as unloading and loading into the site itself, into the loading area. So the 5 vehicle space deficiency is met by both of those things. Yes.
Okay. A follow-up, if I may, the reciprocal parking on the other side with the other uses on this site or the adjoining site. Is there enough parking within the existing center to accommodate additional overflow parking from this proposed use?
Yes, my calculation, this site is adequately parked for all uses that exist there today.
Was there a parking study that was done to that effect to show that? The reason I ask is I know there's a nearby medical office near this proposed use, and there's a lot of overflow parking. Was there a parking study done to that?
I haven't seen a parking study. I'm basing it on my own calculations based on what exists at the site with current uses and current existing parking spaces that are currently striped. So as far as what parking analyses were done for previous business licenses or entitlements, no, I don't have that information.
Okay, was that included in our staff report? Your analysis on the parking?
I believe that the information that you were referring to here was the extent of our analysis for this particular site, given that we were able to park sufficiently based on the 4 to 8 more stalls that could be used inside the building itself, and in addition to what's proposed on this site. So didn't go into any further in our analysis. No.
Okay. Thank you for the explanation. I would ask perhaps in the future if a little bit more explanation if we're looking at, that there's parking, overflow parking on an adjoining site. I just was missing that analysis in the staff report, and I appreciate you bringing that up and on the record for tonight. No further questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Carey. Any other commissioners have questions? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Vanderwell, I move to approve the conditional use permit CU 19-0014 associated with PCN 19-0037, adopting findings C1 through C5 and the facts supporting these findings as set forth in the staff report, subject to the 9 conditions of approval as listed in the staff report.
Thank you, Commissioner Vanderwell. We have a second.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Peterson would like to second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion by the commission before we vote? Yes, Commissioner Carey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple comments before the vote. I concur with staff's recommendation on this one. I think the design of the center does a really good job of addressing those identified impacts. This facility is kind of unique. I'm curious to see how it works out, but I know there's a lot of impacts that typically come with mini storage facilities of this type, and I think the indoor loading area will help address a lot of them. I do have some concerns about parking and meeting that finding C4. I do appreciate the information that was brought by staff, and I hope that the lack of parking, missing 5 spaces on this doesn't negatively affect the adjoining uses. So I will be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carey. Any other discussion or comments before we take a vote? Madam Secretary, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson?
Aye.
Commissioner Blako?
Aye.
Commissioner Carey,
Aye.
Commissioner Pritzos,
Aye.
Commissioner Rawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwell.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Jonathan. Next item on the public hearing is PCN 20-0011, consideration of and possible action on request for a conditional use permit to allow the reconfiguration of a golf course on a site that is 10 acres in size or larger with slope gradient 10% or greater over 25% or more of the site, which is approximately 229.6 acres in size, located at 3500 Sullivan Lane, Sparks, Nevada, in the Public Facilities Zoning District.
There we go. Good evening, Chair Reed and Commissioners. I'm Danny Ray, planner. This is a request for a conditional use permit to allow the configuration of an existing golf course from 18 holes down to 19 holes. The reason why it's a conditional use permit is because this golf course is on a site that's 10 acres in size or larger, with slope gradients of 10% or greater over 25% or more of the site. So you can see here, it is north of McCarran and west of Pyramid and east of Sullivan. And you may remember that the Planning Commission recently heard development agreement and conditional use permit for Hug High School, which is to be located here. Previously, this had been a 316 plus or minus acre site owned by Washoe County. And now, after the 87 plus or minus acre portion was removed, what remains is 229 plus or minus acres. It has a public facilities zoning designation and community facilities land use, comprehensive land use designation. Washoe County School District owns the 87 plus or minus, and Washoe County is the owner for the remaining portion. Oops. It's not letting me click. Oh, there we go. This right here is the new site design for the, oops, let's go back, for the golf course. The 9-hole executive golf course will remain as the other section that is being changed. The scope of work includes construction of new greens, tees, sand bunkers, fairways and roughs, asphalt cart paths, areas of new irrigation, installation and revisions to existing irrigation, new tree planting, and final preparation and grassing. There we go. But what we're here for today with the conditional use permit is because of the grading of the slopes. What we see here in red is the cut portion of the plan, and what's in blue is the fill portion of the plan. 41,115 cubic yards of cut and fill to be moved around. That sounds like a lot, but what it really translates into is, out of this 229 acre site, a little less than 30 acres at a average depth of about 10 inches. Or alternatively, 7 football fields at a depth of about 3 feet. Given the large area of the size, that is not a great deal in terms of portion. So for analysis, we have 4 different design policies. The first set of standards address design. This policy relates to the slope analysis that will be forthcoming. The applicant submitted a slope analysis that considers the slopes present on the site and calculates, according to the guidelines in the Sparks Municipal Code, the portion of the site that may be graded. According to this analysis, the area intended to be graded is approximately 29.8 acres, or 13% of the total 229 plus or minus acres. Maintaining 87% of the site is unchanged in terms of slope development. As discussed in detail below, this is well under the limitations of the requirements of SMC 20.04.011. The second policy addresses degradation of the site, as well as erosion and sedimentation. The site's been a golf course since approximately 1978. The proposed cut and fill activities, as I stated, will move the 41,115 cubic yards. The site was designed and has been utilized as a golf course for about 40 years. And the engineering staff has reviewed the applicant's plans and determined that they adequately address the erosion and sedimentation. The third policy limits long slopes with sharp transitions that are considered undesirable. This site does not have any long slopes or sharp transitions, and none are intended to be created. The fourth policy addresses how building on the site will be designed to show sensitivity to hilltops and ridgelines. This application does not propose to add any additional structures to the site. Existing structures include a clubhouse, cart storage building, a picnic pavilion, 2 on-course restroom buildings, an on-course storage building, and an on-course pump building. These existing structures will remain on site. No new structures are included in this application. So the slide covers the last 4 standards. They said engineering staffs reviewed the submitted plans addressing the erosion and sedimentation and determined they comply with code. Regarding landscaping, areas disturbed as part of the grading of the site and not a part of the golf course must be revegetated to comply with the Sparks Municipal Code, and is in fact part of proposed condition number 4, requiring those standards be met. Areas required to be set aside as open space by slopes, hilltops, and ridges section of the code are required to be maintained as undisturbed. And this is condition number 5. And the city has designated certain hilltops and ridges as significant. These hilltops and ridgelines require additional setbacks and protection under the code. The site does not contain any of these designated hilltops or ridgelines. Here is 2 charts. I intentionally put them on one slide. I apologize if it's difficult to read on your smaller devices, but I wanted to adequately show the comparison. At the top is the maximum disturbed area allowed under the code. From 0 to 15%, it's unlimited. You can disturb any amount. From 16 to 25%, three-fourths of that category. And from 26 to 30% slope, 1/3 of that category. And 30% above, you have to create a 2-to-1 ratio, non-constrained area, etc. If you look at the bottom part of the chart down here, oops, sorry. This is what they're proposing, their areas of disturbance for the golf course. In that 0 to 15 category, where they're permitted unlimited, out of 127.77 acres in that category, they're planning to disturb 24.36 acres, or 20% of the total. In the next category, the 1501 to 25, total area is 77.89 acres. They're not planning on disturbing any of that. And from the 25 to 30% slope category, Total area, a little over 20 acres, planning to disturb 5.44 or 27%. And over the 30% slope area, 9.94 acres, they are not planning on disturbing any of that. So out of the total 229 plus or minus acres, they are planning on disturbing the 29.8%, which equals that 41,115 cubic yards, or 7 football fields at 3 feet deep. So I'm going to present the 5 findings required for conditional use permit. Findings C1 and C2 address the conformance and consistency and the goals and policies in the comprehensive plan that are relative to this proposal include MG1 and MG2. The site has community facilities land use designation. The CF land use designation expressly allows golf courses as an appropriate primary use. And as such, the continuing use of this site as a golf course conforms with the Sparks comprehensive plan. As noted earlier, the CUP is required because the existing golf course site has slope gradients that exceed 10% or more over more than 25% of the site, and the site exceeds 10 acres in size. The proposed grading will not change the use on the site that's been in place for more than 40 years. This public recreation space has been and will continue to be a community asset. The reconfiguration of the course allows for the modernization of an existing recreational area, thereby supporting goals MG1 and MG2 of the comprehensive plan. In addition, the use provides open space and compatibility with the adjacent land uses of single-family, residential, condominiums, professional office, multifamily residential, and the new Hug High School. Given the golf course use has been located at this site for decades, with no significant impacts to surrounding properties, and reconfiguring it will not change that compatibility, staff supports a finding of compatibility with the surrounding existing uses of adjacent properties. Findings C3 and C4 look to address identified impacts. Much of this site was previously disturbed in the course of creating the 18-hole golf course decades ago. Staff does not believe that approval of this CUP to allow development of slopes, hilltops, and ridges will result in any impacts that would impair the availability of natural resources or the region's ability to support its population, as the applicant merely plans to reconfigure the existing golf course. And finding C5 for public noticing. Public notice was published in the Reno Gazette Journal on April 22nd of 2020. Notices were mailed to 197 property owners within 500 feet of the subject property on April 23rd of 2020. Planning Commission meeting functions as a public hearing required by Nevada Revised Statutes and Sparks Municipal Code. We did receive 2 emails in support of the project, one strongly in support of the project, the other one's more of just wanting information, but did express support as well. So staff does recommend approval of CU 20-006, and that concludes my report. I'm available for your questions. The applicant's representative, David Solaro, from the Washoe County Manager's Office, is also available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Dani. Do any of the commissioners have questions? Just raise your hand. Let me see. Seeing no questions. Can we unmute the Washoe County rep so he can address the item?
Good evening. For the record, Dave Solaro, Assistant County Manager for Washoe County. Commissioners, thank you for hearing this item. I do want to let you know that Washoe County is in full support of continuing open space at this property. And I know there was a question that came up during the work session on Tuesday. I believe Commissioner Carey had a question regarding trees and landscaping. I did go back and verify on the plans. Currently, we are looking at 439 total trees to be added to the property, 369 conifers ranging in size from 4 to 6 feet, and 70 deciduous trees with a 1¼ inch caliber. So I hope that information is helpful to you as you make this decision. And I am available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solaro. Does any of the commissioners have questions for the county? No. Well, this is a public hearing. I did have a question regarding public comment. When a comment is read into the record, is it also allowed for the same person to call in and comment as well? It just because it came up last time, I wasn't sure how that worked.
Madam Chair, I think under a strict reading of our practices and procedures, my answer would be no. But given the strange circumstances we find ourselves in, I think it would be best to take a generous view of public comment allowances and allow doubling up, if you would.
That's fine. Thank you. I just wanted to be clear on what the guidelines were. So again, this is public comment. So participants will be muted upon entry to the meeting and unmuted as necessary. When it's your turn to speak, you will have 3 minutes. Madam Secretary, will you please repeat the call-in information and summarize the emails and read them for the record?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The telephone number for call-in participation is 1-669-900-6833, and the meeting identification number is 975-7549-8030. You will press *9 to speak. Staff has received 2 email comments specific to this item. Both will be read aloud now. The second email posed several comments and questions for staff. Staff's response will also be read. We will now, so let me get to that. So, as I said, we have 2. The first one is from Adam Searcy, who is the Chief Facilities Management Officer for the Washoe County School District. To whom it may concern, as a property owner in receipt of the attached notice, I wanted to provide public comment. As a representative of the Washoe County School District, I would like to make it clear that Washoe County School District is in support of this application. Washoe County School District has been in several communication and coordination with Washoe County regarding this property and their proposed actions for over 3 years and remain in full support of their proposed actions. We appreciate Washoe County's partnership and support of the public works projects at the Wild Creek area location. Sincerely, Adam Searcy. As I said, the second email, he poses several questions, which I will briefly review in staff's response to those in her follow-up email. This is an email from John Capurro. I have more questions than comments. My question is that I am encouraged that there are efforts to preserve as many golf holes at Wild Creek as possible. The latest conditional use permit request will cover 229.6 acres. This is more than the preliminary design effort originally discussed with adjacent landowners. I believe that having more golf holes will greatly enhance the visual quality of the area around the new high school. More golf holes will provide more open space areas. My questions are several. Who requested the conditional use permit? Who will oversee the design of the new course alignment? Who will oversee construction of the plan changes? Who will operate the new facility? My understanding is that Washoe County owns the Wild Creek Golf Course. Will the proposed reconfiguration be a joint effort between Washoe County and the City of Sparks? I attempted to find any information on the possible reconfiguration of the Sparks Planning Commission on the Sparks Planning Commission website. I was unable to find any background information on the proposal. I would like to know where I can review digital information on the project. John Capurro. So as I said, Planner 2, Danny Ray, who is on staff with the City of Sparks, did respond to Mr. Capurro, and I will just briefly read her response. Good morning. Thank you for your comments regarding PCN 20-0011 Wild Creek Golf Course reconfiguration. Washoe County is the owner and the applicant and will be overseeing the cut and fill activities as well as the design of the reconfiguration of the golf holes. It is important to know that this application is only for the grading activities, which requires approval of a conditional use permit because a CUP is required for developments that are 10 acres in size or larger with slope gradients of 10% or greater over 25% or more of the site. The role of the City of Sparks is limited to permitting activities as a jurisdictional authority. I reached out to the applicant's contact person, David Solero from the Washoe County Manager's Office. He very much would like to speak with you and has asked that you call him at 775-328-3624. He is better able to answer your specific questions regarding the design and the operation of the golf course. The application and staff report will be available for viewing by the public at the same time as the Planning Commission and will be posted on the city's website on or before Friday, May 1st, 2020. If you would like to view the application documents ahead of that date, you may file a public records request, and she gives the link for that. Sincerely, Danny Ray, Planner 2.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Do we have any callers waiting to comment on this item?
Madam Chair, I do believe we have one.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Griffin, you are able to speak.
Hello, am I on?
You are.
Yes, I'm Wesley Griffin. I think most of my questions were answered. As I understood it, there are plans available that the public can view on what is planned on this additional 10 acres. Is that correct?
Mr. Griffin, we can't address your questions during public comment.
Oh, okay. All right, could you repeat what Jay Solero's phone number is? Or is that, I didn't get that.
We'll repeat that after you finish your public comment.
Okay, well, I was primarily interested in who would be managing the course. I wasn't able to hear that very clearly on this public Zoom meeting. And I would also like to know where any current plans are that could be viewed by the public. And so that ends my public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Madam Secretary, will you repeat the number and then if we can have Washoe County address some of his other questions afterwards?
Madam Chair, since Mr. Solero is on this meeting, he may be able to address those questions if that's the Planning Commission's desire right now.
Okay. I thought that's what I had mentioned. I also wanted to repeat the phone number for Mr. Griffith in the future. But yeah, if we can have Mr. Solero come back and answer some of those questions.
And Madam Chair, I apologize. Could you ask if there were any other callers?
Madam Secretary, are there any other callers for public comment?
Madam Chair, I do not see any other callers waiting. Just confirm that with Ms. Martinez. Ms. Martinez, do you see any waiting callers?
There are no waiting callers.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I will go ahead and close the public hearing and then open it back up for Mr. Solero.
Good evening again, Dave Solero, Assistant County Manager for Washoe County. I do have my telephone number. I will go ahead and give that out to 775-328-3624. I can also be reached via email at dsolaro@washoecounty.us. I do have plans available for review. If Mr. Griffin would like to contact me, I can email or make some copies and send those over to him. Currently, Washoe County, many small businesses associated with the closures of COVID-19, we are a small business owner of a golf course currently at Wild Creek, the par 3 9-hole course. We do not currently have a management company to run that course for us. We are continuing to maintain that while we actively pursue a management company to operate that course. As you can imagine, golf just reopened, I believe, last week with the directive of the governor. And so we have struggled to try to find someone to operate that course on our behalf. But it is our hopes that we will be able to find someone in the near future tied with the plans we have for this reconstruction. And I hope that answers Mr. Griffith's questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solero. Does any of the commissioners have further questions or discussion on this item? No. I'll entertain a motion.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Go ahead, Commissioner Blako.
I move to approve the conditional use permit CU 20-0006 associated with PCN 20-0011, adopting findings C1 through C5 and the facts supporting these findings as set forth in the staff report, subject to the 7 conditions of approval as listed in the staff report.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Vanderwell will second.
Thank you. We have a first by Commissioner Blako and a second by Commissioner Vanderwell. Any further discussion by the commission? Commissioner Carey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple comments for the record before the vote. From a land use perspective, I concur with staff's recommendation with this proposed hillside development conditional use permit. I'm really pleased to see that Washoe County is following through with its commitment to maintain golf in our community and to preserve this open space. When we reviewed the conditional use permit and the development agreement last year as a body, we heard a lot from the community and the public about the need to keep public golf and the need to keep open space in the area. And I think with the reconfiguration of the new golf course, that's going to do a lot to help keep public golf in the community. There's a big need for that, particularly in Sparks. I think it's going to be a great recreational asset moving forward. And I think that the design and the course of the grading plan will also help advance goal RC1 from our comprehensive plan. That's the goal, which is to preserve and protect natural resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carey. Any further discussion before I call for the vote? No. Madam Secretary, will you please do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Blako,
Aye.
Commissioner Carey,
Aye.
Commissioner Pritzos,
Aye.
Commissioner Rawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwell.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we will move on to the general business items. First is the City of Sparks 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 2021 through 2025.
Yes, good evening. This is Brian Kaysen, the Capital Projects Manager. Let me share my screen so that I can bring up the PowerPoint presentation. So just to start out, of course, this is the capital improvement plan for not only FY21, but the full 5-year plan that goes through June of 2025. this presentation will primarily highlight the projects that complement the comprehensive plan and will only be for FY21. The additional plan is in front of you, or you've had a chance to review it. And the total proposed CIP for this coming fiscal year is just over $28.5 million. And I do want to emphasize there's a lot of time and effort that goes into putting this plan together for myself, other staff members, other divisions, consultants, maintenance. A lot of different people are involved in this, and it's pretty much a year-round process that we continually are taking in input and trying to come up with the best possible plan. And so I do want to thank everybody involved in that process. And then moving into support of the comprehensive plan, just highlighting some of the primary portions of the plan that the capital improvement plan supports. One being a livable, sustainable, and healthy community. We do that a lot through some stuff like the maintaining the road network, the bike paths throughout the city, maintaining the regional system of parks such as Golden Eagle, as you see in this picture here. Hopefully we'll be able to allow people to attend those parks here in the near future. Also Victorian Square, making sure that functions as a vibrant downtown with living, shopping, restaurants, and commercial. These are just like Hot August Nights, the downtown train, museum, all the wonderful events we have throughout the year, just making sure that we're keeping up with the projects that maintain that area. We've got several projects I'll talk about here in this presentation that do support that comprehensive plan vision and also the goals of the comprehensive plan. One of the goals being the community facilities and services, maintaining the city-owned facilities and infrastructure and making sure that we maximize their utilization and just spend taxpayer money in the best and most efficient possible manner to keep this community in the best condition possible. One of the funds I'm going to talk about just briefly, a lot of these projects, I'm just going to go through them very quickly. One is the Transportation Fund, Fund 1401. This is funded through fuel tax and franchise fees, and we've got a total cost of projects just over $3.3 million. Staff basically goes through and uses what's called a pavement condition index that's updated about a third of the city every year, so on a 3-year rolling average. You can see that the PCI is going down slightly over the last couple years, but we're trying to do the best we can with the money available. And then we also use the pavement condition or pavement management program that compiles all this information, among other things, to help staff to come up with the best possible plan year to year and making sure that we maintain those streets and do the best we can with that money available. This just kind of breaks out each individual area that's input into the pavement management program. Area 1 is down there in the core of the downtown area. Area 2 is just basically east of McCarran Boulevard. And then Area 3 is down south of Interstate 80, which is primarily maintained by the RTC. Area 4 is up there just north of kind of a North McCarran Boulevard and Bering location up to just before you get to North Sparks. And then Area 5, of course, is out in North Sparks up there. Some of the projects, Unit 1, basically that's broken into different units to try and get the best prices possible whenever we're doing this so that we can keep them, get a contractor in generally one location so that we minimize the amount of mobilization costs. So Unit 1 is there kind of bounded on this to the south of East Crater Way and to the east of North McCarran Boulevard. And then Area 2 is just east of North McCarran Boulevard and includes streets such as Glen Molly Drive, Desert View Drive, and Sage View Drive. And then this is the actual actually corrective and preventative maintenance. This is where we're basically doing slurry seals and trying to maintain the roads that have been repaved or are new, and that's basically scattered throughout the city. And then the Community Development Block Grant Program is a very important program that we use in the lower income areas that have a low to moderate income of greater than 51% of the area. Currently, we're going to be working on the area just south of Prater Way and then up there near Sparks High School. And then we've got the curb, gutter, and sidewalk projects that basically marry with the utility fund to make sure that whenever we tear up a street, we're taking a look at and planning out if any of the utility or infrastructure underneath the ground needs to be replaced. This is just a close-up of the 5-year plan of locations that will use that utility enterprise fund to basically do curb, gutter, and sidewalk projects within the city. And then we've got a couple projects within the sanitary sewer projects fund, which is 1631. One's a manhole rehab project. This is a project basically going through and assessing manholes throughout the city that have water infiltration, that's groundwater, that is actually going to the plant and increasing the amount of water that the plant has to process. So in this video that's briefly going to play, you can basically see this area right here is water infiltration that's just groundwater. The water within this area is actually the water that would be sanitary sewer water that should be flowing through the pipe, whereas we're getting this other water that ends up being millions of gallons that's going to the plant. So we're going to look at sealing up these manholes and throughout the city in a phased approach and try and minimize that amount of infiltration. The next one is the McCarran Boulevard Sewer Upgrade Project. It's right there on McCarran Boulevard between Greenbrae and Prater Way, and basically just upgrading the sewer within that area. And then sanitary storm drain projects. This is a project at the marina, on the south side of the marina here. Basically the pipeline that maintains the water level or helps maintain the water level within the marina. It's actually, we're going to replace the pipe. The pipe's starting to have leaks and areas that are of concern. So we're going to go through and replace that pipeline. And then another one is basically the Vista Boulevard and Prater Way area that seems to periodically basically get flooded out during more major thunderstorms, going through and making sure that water is piped back over to the North Truckee Drain. So that's another project that's planned for this next fiscal year. And then a river flood project to basically enclose the North Truckee Drain around Lillard Drive, basically minimizing the amount of trash and amount of items that go in there. It's very difficult to clean out that area. So there will be basically an area at the entrance that allows staff to get in there and clean out anything that's on a grate that will keep big branches and stuff like that from going in there. And then the Capital Projects Fund, Fund 1404. This is our primary fund for buildings and facilities throughout the city. It is funded through a 2.5% general fund transfer. We do have a reduction in this fund of just over $1.1 million for this coming fiscal year due to new needs. And then it's broken into 3 different parts: 1404A, 1404B, and 1404C. The 1404A portion is for facilities. 1404B and C is for IT hardware and software. We've got just over $1 million worth of projects planned within this fund. Just briefly hitting on some of the projects in 1404A that we're looking at. One's police department SWAT equipment. This is for equipment that the police department has to maintain for their SWAT department in order to make sure that they're safe. And then the police department HVAC boiler and chiller replacement project. This is for a design project for the main heart of the system over at the PD. The construction portion would be hopefully in the near future in the next couple years. And then the police department maintenance garage roof improvements that we're having a lot of water infiltrating onto the walls of interior walls of that building. And we want to make sure that we keep up on the structural integrity of that building. This is a building that's located right behind the police department facility. And then fire station number 2, the restroom remodel, is a project that we're currently working on for remodeling the dorms, and we want to do basically the restrooms within that facility also, which are located in that same area, so that we can get in there, minimize staff, the amount of interruption to staff, and then just we'll get better, should get better construction prices also if we do them together. So the next one we're going to look at is 1404 A and B, or B and C, which is the IT hardware and software program. And I'm just going to briefly go through this. Basically all the major systems that the Parks and Rec software, real-time backup systems. We've got a lot of different systems that IT is going to be upgrading, and the systems that they maintain currently. Hardware and infrastructure. We have the data center status and the cloud. We have desktop status and vendor neutrality. And then staff computers. What do they need per seat? Basically, Microsoft Windows operating systems, their Office 365, Outlook, Word, all the major components that we need to operate day to day. Arctic Wolf intrusion detection system, which is really helps with keeping basically viruses and that sort of thing out of the computer system within the city, and then additional applications by each department. The seats, basically the Microsoft Office, is just to show you kind of generally what the cost is per year. Arctic Wolf is $62 per year per person that has a computer. And then Microsoft Office, if you have a actual desktop, is $278 per year per person. And then if you just have an online computer, basically it's $69 per year. And then basically the funding sources, we have, of course, the cost to major systems is estimated at $310,000 for this coming fiscal year, and for hardware at $141,000. And then this is just a slide showing all kind of typically what a lot of the different vendor partners are that we use throughout the city. And then major system projects for FY21, getting Wi-Fi at the maintenance yard, police video system, upgrading their system in their interview rooms, payroll upgrades, timekeeping upgrades, a new city website. I'm going to be working on that for this coming fiscal year to update our website and hopefully make it a little more usable, and then utility billing upgrades. And then this is just to show generally in a pie chart the different departments that the funding is going to for this year for the most part. I mean, we've got a lot of it for the attorney's office, for the community services department, financial services, fire department, and management services, basically for the refresh program. And then the refresh lifespans, this is driven primarily from the basically the warranties of each of these items. Like standard PC is every 4 years. We'll do a replacement on those. Engineering PCs every 3 years, and on. Basically, that's how that's driven. And then with that, have any questions for that particular slide in terms of or up to this point? If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I do have a few more funds that I'm going to go through, though.
Thank you, Brian. Does any of the commissioners have any questions at this point in the presentation they'd like to ask? Double check everybody. I don't see any questions at this time. Brian, go ahead and continue.
If not, I'll continue on here. We've got the Capital Projects Fund 1405. This is funded through property tax, which is called ad valorem. But this has a smaller budget, but we've got as many projects as we can do using the budget we have available for this fund. We've got a citywide rekeying security improvement project that is basically an ongoing project we've been working on for the last 2 or 3 years to upgrade the doors with security access. Fire station number 3, replacing the carpet within that facility. The maintenance admin restroom remodel design, that's a very old restroom and in need of being refurbished. Adding a lean-to building at the maintenance yard to protect some of the equipment that's out there. Deer Park pool boiler and water heater replacement. This is a facility that is enjoyed by a lot of people during the summer for their swimming pool, and basically the boiler and water heater are in need of replacement. And then the police department records area remodel. This will add more space through basically cubicles within the police department facility to allow for more staff. And then parks projects. This is funded through franchise fees, Golden Eagle rental and lease fees, along with marijuana licensing fees. A couple projects that we're working on within this, or going to be working on within this fund, is the Marina Wall Rehab project. This is basically located in the same location, similar location as the pipe project that I mentioned earlier for through the utility fund down here on the south side of the marina. And basically the wall is deteriorating and in need of replacement. So we will be working on that this coming fiscal year. And then the second item is maintenance access road up here on the northern side of the marina, where there's been some erosion and we need to get in there and build up that road and make sure we have good access to maintain the beach on the north side of the marina. And then Golden Eagle, continue on with turf replacement. We've already replaced, basically this is for field 9 is what we're looking at doing for this coming fiscal year. But in this next slide, we've already replaced the fields in gray, which is fields 7 and 8, and the infields of the softball fields. And then we've got a future plan for going through and replacing each of these fields going forward. And that is determined by not only visual inspection, but also by other inspections that we perform on the fields continuously. So this is the plan going forward as of right now, but that could change as the years go by and we have more wear and tear on those fields. And then park districts, funds 1406, 1407, and 1408. This is funded through residential construction tax. This is just a reminder of where the park districts are located. The Park District 1 is located just west of a line of basically right there at East McCarran Boulevard and up through Sparks Boulevard. And then Park District 2 is to the east of that line, and Park District 3 is up in North Sparks. We've got 3 projects planned in Park District 1. Fortunately, we have had a lot of construction in downtown Victorian, so we've been able to obtain a little bit more money within that area. Looking at Opio tennis court surface replacement, Deer Park shade structure replacement, and also Deer Park play structure replacement. In Park District 2, we're looking at adding a dog park to Para Park. And then Park District 3, replacing the playground up at Bodega Park. And then Victorian Square room tax, as I discussed earlier, basically trying to make sure that we maintain Victorian Avenue and keep it very usable during events. We have our ongoing section projects to basically upgrade the tree planters and the pavers and any ADA items that need to be addressed, and try and open up the area a little bit more while still making sure that we make it aesthetically pleasing. So we got section 4 that we're going to be working on this coming fiscal year. We've got the phase 2 barricade project. Right now, phase 1 is coming to a close over there, primarily on the east side of Victorian. But we'll have a phase 2 this coming fiscal year that includes a lot more. And then design of the Nugget Event Center streetscape project. This kind of goes hand in hand with the section 4 replacement, only it's occurring right in front of the Nugget Center. And this is basically to design a little bit more aesthetically pleasing area right there in front of the Nugget Event Center. And so this basically shows that section 4 I talked about just over on West Victorian. We're trying to kind of stay away from the areas that are under construction or going to be under construction so that we're not tearing up the ground twice. The gray is the areas we've already completed. This next picture just shows right in front of the Nugget building where we replaced the planters last year, added a little bit of turf, replaced pavers, and just went through and made the area more usable. And we got a lot of positive feedback from the events last year from this project. And then we've got Avenue of the Oaks. Right now we're doing the design phase of this project. This is for construction to straighten out Avenue of the Oaks and make it more usable for basically whenever buildings will be constructed down on Victorian Plaza. We'll be able to make that more usable for events and for the community. And then the last item is the motor vehicle fund, which is funded through cost recovery of vehicles through each department. Just to highlight, we've got 12 police vehicles, 1 light fire vehicle, 13 vehicles for community services, a sweeper, 2 10-wheel dump trucks with plows, and a stander. And then we've also got a fire apparatus equipment replacement plan that includes the initial payment to Rosenbauer for a 100-foot platform truck. By paying this up front, we're maintaining a lot of savings when we actually do get that truck. And then the next slide just shows some pictures of what that equipment looks like, the major equipment. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Brian. Does any of the commissioners have any questions at this time? Commissioner Carey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had a couple questions for Brian. Appreciate the exercise of this coming to the Planning Commission and taking a look at it from the comprehensive plan perspective. Brian, is there any funding in the CIP for Fire Station number 6?
That's actually funded through, I believe it's IFSA 2, and we are currently going through a cost analysis for that fire station. I'm working with the local architect to go through and figure out what the estimated cost is for that so that we can plan for that in the future and make sure that there is enough money available in IFSA 2 to build that facility. So it is in the planning stages.
Thank you for that clarification and information. I was digging into the pavement management program, and I was looking at line item 210500. It's on page 4, but I was just curious because this one seems like it's the main pavement management program. For some years, it's like around $1.5 million, and then it goes up another years to like $2 million. It looked like it was like odd years, it was going down to 1.5, and then on even years, it was going up to 2 million. I was just kind of curious what's going on there, and why is there the difference?
I've actually got, I believe Amber Sosa is on here. She's the transportation manager. I believe she would be a lot better at answering that question than I would. Amber, are you there?
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Carey, for the record, Amber Sosa, transportation manager. Can you repeat the number that were you looking at 21-0500? Was that your specific question?
Yes, it was.
Perfect. So that program in our annual fund is our rehab project. There's not necessarily a magic to it that even an odd year that you're asking. Basically what you were seeing in our units is that we look at the PCIs of streets and in neighborhoods to try to group them. If they're in that rehab category, we group them as best as we can to take advantage of getting all the streets in a neighborhood done. So as we look at that and as we look at the revenues that are available, that number just tends to fluctuate.
Okay, thank you for that. I guess a question back to Brian. I was curious about the line item about the solar panels and then the maintenance line items. They looked like they were relatively small. It was like $25,000 for like new solar panels. Then it was $15,000 for like the maintenance annually. I was just kind of curious how effective the city's lighting retrofit program is, and how we're doing in terms of the renewable energy of the city.
That maintenance program for the photovoltaic systems is very important. We actually did not have that for the first probably 4 or 5 years whenever we had the system, and found out some of the systems were down, or there were problems with inverters, or they weren't running as efficiently because it's just too hard to keep track of them on basically a monthly or daily basis at times. So we found a company that that does monitoring. They go through and they're able to fix those and make sure, and they do assessments on the efficiency of those. So the amount of money we lose if they are not operating properly is well beyond what that $15,000 is that we spend every year to pay this company to go out and maintain those. So it goes a long ways, and the $15,000 actually does cover everything for all the different systems we have throughout the city. We have, I believe it's 5 different ones at Fire Station 4, 5, Golden Eagle, Police Department, and Larry D. Johnson Community Center. And then the lighting retrofits, that's just every time we do a project, we try and upgrade to LED lights or lights that are more efficient. And so, yes, at times we'd like to have more money in it than that, but that has been sufficient to keep up with the projects we have. And then whenever we do have a remodel, we include that in the cost of the project.
Okay, thank you. My last question, Madam Chair, and this may be for Amber. I was curious about the city's PCI, and looking at the graph, I do concur that it looks like it has been treading downward slightly since 2016. I think one of the big takeaways that I took away when the commission met with the city council to go over the fiscal analysis workshop last year was just kind of the condition of our road fund and looking at those projections moving forward. So my questions are, how does this PCI for the city look throughout the term of this proposed capital improvement program? And then what can we do as a commission to help with the efforts to maintain that? I think we have really limited sources of funding and limited tools to keep up with maintaining all the roads, but I was just kind of hoping you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, for sure. Again, for the record, Amber Sosa, Transportation Manager. There's a lot that we're always doing. I think that you hit the nail on the head that we are kind of limited in the revenue streams that we have. Definitely one to target would be fuel tax. As we get more electric cars, as our cars get more efficient, it definitely depletes our revenue stream. However, those vehicles are still using our roads. So the city and staff has done a lot to really be as efficient as possible as we can with our programs. For example, the way that we package projects, other entities and other things use a lot of consultant time. We've really pulled that back a lot. We do a lot in-house. We really do hands-on in the construction field to where we're limiting the spending that we do up front and really just trying to be as efficient as possible. A lot of the strategies that we're looking at to make the dollar stretch even farther is really looking at our preventative program. If we can hit streets and keep them at a decent PCI, you're looking at $1 a square foot for a lot of those slurry type projects, where when we let them fall into the rehab category, we're getting into the $7 a square foot. So our entire program is designed to be as efficient as possible, and really try to stretch those dollars. As you said, there's limited revenue, and we definitely try to do the best that we can.
No further questions for me. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Carey. Does anybody else, any of the other commissioners have any questions? Commissioner Pritsos.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if this is really more for Brian or for Amber, but kind of continuing this conversation with the road fund, have we had to take into account the fact that since the COVID-19 outbreak and the kind of crash in oil prices, has our projection for fuel tax revenue gone down, and has that then affected maybe the budget for road projects?
Commissioner Pritsos, this is Amber Sosa again, Transportation Manager, and if anybody would like to jump in, or if I say it wrong, Armando or John Erickson, please do so. The way that I understand that we're looking at the budget at this point is as if the current pandemic didn't happen. Some of those projections are a little too far out, I think, to really nail down at this point. We do know that there will be a reduction in fuel tax. We do know that some other revenue sources will be hit. The budget that you're seeing and the CIP you're seeing right now would be assuming that didn't happen. And as we move forward and see how extreme those cuts are, or hopefully not, we can adjust accordingly.
Yes, Mr. Ornelas.
Armando Ornelas, Assistant Community Services Director. Yes, just to echo what Ms. Sosa said, basically the CIP is being addressed or handled in the same way as the city's proposed budgets, which have to be adopted later this month. Again, to reiterate what Ms. Sosa said, we don't know what the magnitude of the impacts associated or resulting from the COVID emergency are going to be. So the city is proceeding to adopt these budgets essentially as developed. And then the short answer is then we will manage both our budgets and our CIP based on the dollars available.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. No further questions.
Thank you. Any other questions from the commission?
Madam Chair, I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I wanted to thank City of Sparks because my neighborhood was benefit of some road improvements. So we've got roads, sidewalks, and curb and gutter. And I want to say thank you. It's wonderful. I live in the Village Green project on Pyramid and McCarran, and it went smooth and it looks wonderful. So I'm going to say thank you.
Wonderful. If there are no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Carey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me scroll up to the motion. Just happy to beat Commissioner Vanderwell on a motion tonight.
Hey, I would like to move things along quicker.
I move to find the proposed capital improvement plan for fiscal years 21 through 25 in conformance with the Sparks Comprehensive Plan, and would like to forward a recommendation of approval of the capital improvement plan to the City Council.
Thank
Commissioner Blako, second.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Carey and a second from Commissioner Blako. Any further discussion before we call for a vote? Commissioner Carey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just really quickly before the vote, for the record, I appreciate the small increase in this year's sidewalk rehabilitation. I know that's something that I've always been monitoring each year when these come through. I feel like more investment is obviously needed, but I appreciate the small increase. I think that'll help promote Goal C3 and Policy C4. I appreciate the information from Amber and Brian on the lighting program, the solar program, and then also the pavement condition index. I think with the budget impacts that are coming, unfortunately, I think one way to help stimulate our local economy would be to invest whatever additional resources we could in road rehabs. Those are projects that don't require federal environmental clearance approval. Can be done by local workmen, and I think it would be really good to help stimulate our economy. I appreciate the effort and appreciate the exercise of this coming to the City Council or to the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Carey. Any other comments? All right. We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, can you please do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Blako,
Aye.
Commissioner Carey,
Aye.
Commissioner Pritzos,
Aye.
Commissioner Rawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwell.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you to Brian and staff.
Thank you
for that presentation. Next, we have item 10 is selection of a commissioner to serve on the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Commission to fill a 3-year term beginning on July 1st, 2020 from the following pool of applicants listed in alphabetical order: David Blako, Scott Carey, Frank Peterson, Evan Pritzos, and Mike Ralston. Commissioner Blako's term expires on June 30th, 2020. Any discussion or a motion? Commissioner Carey.
I think Commissioner Blako has been doing a fine job representing us on Regional Planning Commission. I'd make a motion to appoint him to a full term.
Thank you, Commissioner Carey. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Vanderwell, second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Carey and a second from Commissioner Vanderwell. Any further discussion? All right, Madam Secretary, can we please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Reed,
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson,
Aye.
Commissioner Blako,
Aye.
Commissioner Carey,
Aye.
Commissioner Pritzos,
Aye.
Commissioner Rawson,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderwell.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we will move on to public comment. General public comment limited to items that are not on the agenda. Madam Secretary, would you once again repeat the call-in information?
This is for general public comment. The telephone number for call-in participation during this general public comment period is 1-669-900-6833. And the meeting identification number is 975-7549-8040. Please dial now to be joined and use *9 to request to speak.
Do we have any public comment on the phone?
I don't see any, Chair Reed. Ms. Martinez, do you see any?
There are no callers at this time.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. If we do get a caller, then we can reopen it. I'd like to move on to announcements from staff and commissioners.
On the part of staff, Chairwoman Reed, Armando Ornelas here. There are no announcements.
Thank you. Any announcements from the commissioners? Commissioner Carey.
I had one really quick one, Madam Chair. Next Wednesday, that's May 13th from noon to 1 o'clock. The Northern Chapter of the APA is going to be doing a webinar about the 2050 regional plan that RTC is currently working on. That's a big plan for the region and for Spark. So if you're interested, I can forward a flyer that I received to the commission, but I encourage everyone to check out that webinar next Wednesday. And happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
Thank you, Commissioner Carey. Any further announcements?
Yes.
Blako.
I just wanted to say thank you very much for selecting me to serve on the Regional Planning Commission. And I intend to do the job to the best of my abilities, and I'm happy to represent the city of Sparks on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Blako. We're glad to have you on there. Did we get any callers in during the announcements?
There are no callers.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, then I would like to go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.